Bella Salon and Day Spa, located at 41 West Main Street in Northeast Pennsylvania, proudly supports Chautauqua Sunrise and its volunteers. More information at bellasalonanddayspa.net. Westfield Memorial Hospital provides high-quality health care to residents of Western New York, offering patients the most sophisticated medical advancements while keeping the ease and familiarity of a community hospital. Support for Chautauqua Sunrise has been provided by WRFA 107.9 FM, Jamestown's public radio station, streaming online 24/7 at WRFALP.com. Low power to the people. Funding is provided by a grant from New York State Senator Catherine M. Young, representing Western New York's 57th District with a local office in Olean. Chautauqua Sunrise is made possible by a grant from Fredonia Place, a continuing care retirement community providing dignity in a modern luxury environment. Meter's Restaurant, a family tradition for over 50 years in downtown Ripley, is a proud supporter of Chautauqua Sunrise. Meter's provides all-day dining, banquet services, and custom catering, specializing in pie. From the Access Channel 5 studios in Mayville, it's Chautauqua Sunrise. Chautauqua Sunrise is hosted by Doc Hamels and supported by the award-winning volunteers at Access Channel 5. Continuing the traditions of Senior Report, we are here to share local news, colorful interviews, and events of interest to everyone. Chautauqua Sunrise is broadcast live Saturday mornings each week, countywide, from 9 to 10 a.m. Join us by calling in live, emailing us, or checking out our social media. And now, from the Channel 5 studios, it's Chautauqua Sunrise.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm Doc Hamels, and you're watching Chautauqua Sunrise. I was just telling everybody here in the studio, I'm wired. I'm ready to go because we just pre-recorded our 200 show, and I'm not going to tell you anything about it, but it'll be in 2 weeks from now because I'll be away, and I couldn't be here for the 200 show, so I contacted a very dear friend and special guest who will be with me on that show 2 weeks from now. But we have just as cool show coming up today, so stay tuned. I know you're watching me at a different time today because we had to do a juggling of our schedule, but we'll be returning next week and the following weeks back to our 9 o'clock slot. So thanks to the crew here at the station that were able to get us to do double shows and to be broadcast at 10. And we have a great staff here. I don't know if you know that, all volunteers, and they do a great job every week for me. I want to say good afternoon, and my guests always look at me like, what are you talking about, good afternoon? Good afternoon to all the listeners on WRFA 107.9, low power to the people over in Jamestown. And since the local cable company has more or less limited our contact with the rest of the county, at least I know that some of the folks in Jamestown get to hear what we're doing here in Mayville and all the good stuff we talk about here on Chautauqua Sunrise. So good afternoon, and thanks to the folks over there that continue to think that what we're doing here is as important as we think what you're doing over there. All right, well, the weather continues to be like the stock market, isn't it? I said this last week, and I thought, I can't believe I'm saying it again. Up and down, up and down. And it's making me a little crazy, but yesterday I got outside and I found muscles that I forgot I had. And boy, was I sore this morning. Took that Advil and got the BioFreeze out, and I'm feeling a little better. But it's great, isn't it? The peepers are squawking at night, and my dog is full of mud and loving life, and flowers are finally popping up. So we made it. At our town board meeting the other night in Ripley, I'm a councilman there. The best news of all was the highway department supervisor, our highway superintendent, I'll get it out, give me a minute, Jim Spath, announced that they pulled the blades off the truck. So when they pull the blades, they're confident that it's spring. So it's better and better. So anyways, all good stuff. All right, well, I'm not going to spend a lot of time gabbing because I want to get into a lot of our announcements. You folks are doing a good job. You're sending me all kinds of announcements, and that's what this show is all about, is sharing the good stuff with all of you. And then we're going to get to my guest he's in the green room right now getting all powdered up, then actually working out the nerves because I know he's a nervous guy, so we'll see. All right, let's start out in our friends over in Jamestown at Infinity. They're letting you know that they have a new student orientation. We talked about this, I think it was last week. Music, art, dance, and theater students of all levels are welcome to enroll in private and group lessons. The Infinity Visual and Performing Arts Center will hold a new student orientation and intake session on Thursday, April 19th. Please contact the Infinity Center at 664-0991 to register for a session and reserve your spot today. Students may also register online at Infinity Performing Arts, that's all one word, .org, to be contacted for an orientation slot. Orientation sessions last approximately 30 minutes, including a tour of the Infinity Center and opportunities to meet the Infinity staff members and schedule lessons. Now, these sessions are important because your son, daughter, grandchild, neighbor, niece, nephew, whoever wants to participate, this is an opportunity to kind of check out what's available, and maybe they thought they want to be a tuba player, and when they go through there, they find out how cool it really is to be a guitarist like me. So they might change their minds, or they want to go into the theater, or broadcast like us. So whatever. Okay, they have a Winwood showcase coming up. So it says here on April 20th, a showcase of Infinity's woodwind students instructed by my friend Sarah Marchitelli and Jacob Swanson. Jacob's been on the show here. John Cross and Rachel Solis. Both solo and group performers will be showcasing their talent on the Infinity Arts Cafe stage starting at 7 p.m. Always remember that the Infinity Arts Cafe events are free, family-friendly, and open to the public. And if you have never been to Infinity, it's way cool there. And they just do such great work with our youth. And boy, if I had an Infinity when I was kids, Eric Clapton would be my junior. I would be awesome. I can tell you that right now. So it just gives kids opportunity to really learn and expand very quickly and really enjoy the finer arts. Okay, we have a slide here with Jacob Swanson, and he hosts the Van Doren Workshop at Infinity. So let's see what this is all about. This is the newest announcement. So this is slide 15. Infinity wants you to know that they'll be hosting a local educator and saxophonist, Jacob Swanson, for a free read clinic sponsored by Van Doren. As part of Van Doren's arts education program, this workshop will help teachers and students alike better understand and use single reeds and associated products for clarinets and saxophones. If you remember right, we had Rusty Bova here that did an awesome presentation last week on the show with his clarinet, and reeds are very important to their instruments, just like strings are to guitars, I guess. The workshop will be held Saturday, April 21st from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. at the Infinity Center. That's over on 301 East 2nd Street. Participants will take part in the hands-on workshop that teaches basic troubleshooting, reed selection, and maintenance, and much more. Free reed samples will be available, as well as trial ligatures and mouthpieces. I have no idea what a ligature is. I know what the mouthpiece is, but maybe I need to go there and find that out. The workshop is free and open to all area music teachers, as well as clarinet and saxophone students. For more information, give them a call at 664-0991. Okay, and speaking of Rusty Bova, our next slide. Rusty Bova is going to be at the Lakeshore Center for the Arts tonight. Tonight's the night. Okay, he's an international jazz clarinetist and saxophonist, and he's presenting something called a tribute to Bill Ross, his teacher from high school that we talked about last week. And if you want to know more about Rusty, look at YouTube, and you can check out the show and learn all about what's going to happen tonight. The show is going to be in the sanctuary at the First Presbyterian Church in Westfield, and that's going to start at 7:30 p.m. And I think the tickets are $10, I think Rusty said. Anyways, if you heard him play last week, he was just outstanding, and I know I got a lot of compliments about the show last week and his music, and I think you're going to enjoy it. So tonight, starting at 7:30 over at the Lakeshore Center for the Arts. Okay, trauma and addiction training. All right, this is, let's see, something going to be held on April 20th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. At SUNY Fredonia Technology Incubator over at 214 Central Avenue in Dunkirk, New York. Registration is $50. Okay, what's this all about? During this training, substance use disorder therapists, counselors will begin to connect trauma and substance use disorders, and this training will provide an opportunity to develop strategies to include trauma in the treatment plans. The therapists and counselors will also understand the importance of being informed of a client's past trauma experience to provide appropriate care and resources to high recovery. The training will cover a variety of trauma, the connection between trauma and substance abuse, and appropriate treatment. So this is kind of a new program. I haven't heard about this before until they mentioned this to us, I think it was last week. For more information, give them a call at CASIC, and I have the phone number right here at 664-3661, and let's see what they have to say, and if you're interested. So we like to talk about these trainings because it's so important that the community know that they're available and that you can participate. They're also offering a tobacco cessation program using motivational interviewing. Anna Maria Masucci, tobacco control specialist from Roswell Park Cancer Institute, will be doing a program on Thursday, April 26th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. At the Lakewood Baptist Church. This is free to the public, but you do have to pre-register. This informational session will cover nicotine dependence, the importance of addressing tobacco, evidence-based research for, here we go again, pharmacotherapy, principles of motivational interviewing, incorporating this program into tobacco cessation, stages of change, addressing ambivalence, and resources and support services are available. It's a 2-hour continuing education credit program, and again, if you want more information, give me a call at 664-3661. Okay, Laugh in the Dark, talking about the Lakeshore Center for the Arts. Let's pop that one up here. Lakeshore Center for the Arts is looking for performers, actors, singers, and impersonators, and any kind of form of entertainment. That's slide 17, guys, to take part in an adult comedy extravaganza entitled Laugh in the Dark that will be performed late spring of this year. Comedy scenes, music, poetry, etc. will be performed in the show, and they're looking for both men and women, ages 18 with no top age. So don't be bashful if you are like 60, like really old. But I don't know. Again, this will be an adult material. Rick Miskel, the director, says he thinks it'll be naughty, but it's not going to be filthy or really embarrassing kind of stuff, but just a little bit of edge to it that we all kind of enjoy once in a while. If you're interested, email Rick at rickmascaro, all one word, RICKMASCARO @gmail.com, Rick Mascaro. Or give them a call if you know anybody that's involved with the Lakeshore Center for the Arts. Rehearsals will be very flexible, as the show is made up of numerous smaller presentations that will make rehearsal much easier. So if, let's say you're a comedian, you don't have to worry about being at the same rehearsal as the musicians, for instance. They'll schedule you whenever you can, so it'll just put all the parts together. And remember, this is an excellent opportunity to get your feet wet if you've not performed in public before. You will begin your journey with them in the not too distant future, and he hopes to hear from you. Being a stand-up musician as I am, and host and producer of this TV show, it's a little daunting to get in front of a camera and get in front of a microphone, but after you do it a few times, it's sort of fun. It's kind of something you can really enjoy, and if you have a skill in that area, check it out. Okay, just a few more things here to talk about. A free parenting class is being offered. Let's see, this is also through CASIC. Boy, they've got a lot of stuff going on in the community. Build a strong foundation for your children. Your child's first years are so important. Learn how to make the most of them with what they call active parenting the first 5 years. In this program, you'll learn the best way to nurture your child from birth to pre-K with a just right combination of freedom and nonviolent discipline. Give your kids a strong start. As I mentioned before, this is the class that we all wish we had in high school, but no one ever taught. So this could be something that if you are an expecting parent, or if you got a child that's giving you a little trouble, you might want to check this out. Here's what you're going to learn: what a baby's cry means. That's very daunting at 2 in the morning and you don't know exactly what they want. Ages and stages of development, building a strong bond, your child's growing brain, using mindfulness to keep you cool, effective discipline, young children can understand, choices and consequences, 6 ways to prepare your child for school success, and much, much more. 2-hour sessions. They're going to start on May 2nd, going through the 9th, the 16th, and the 23rd. From 12 to 2 p.m. It's going to be held at the Mental Health Association at 31 Water Street at the Gateway Center in Jamestown. It's free of charge, so if you're interested, check it out. And again, the phone number there is 664-3661. Okay, a new event that's popped up is the Shred It event. The Westfield Memorial Hospital Auxiliary is having a Shred It event where you bring your, I don't know, old tax returns, things that have piled up, that old bills that you don't want to throw in the garbage because you're worried about ID identification stealing and all that stuff. I think I just was redundant there. Somebody stealing your ID. They have these containers, they're $10, you put all your papers in there, they shred it into a zillion little streamers, and nobody can ever sit there and put all the pieces back together again and figure out your identity. This is going to benefit the Westfield Memorial Hospital Auxiliary, which in turn benefits the hospital. It's going to be held May 5th from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., so mark your calendars. May 5th, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., and it's going to be held right at the Westfield Memorial Hospital parking lot, I'm sure. Okay, and then the last one that came in late, Ripley, New York, my hometown, is going to have something called Third Fridays. And these are going to be very similar to a lot of the communities that have their First Fridays in the area, where they're going to invite vendors, artisans, and so forth to come in and set up, sell their wares, explain what they do, whatever. Organizations could set up booths, informational booths, and that sort of thing. And it's going to be held third Fridays of the month, starting May 18th all the way through the early fall. The events will be running from 5 to 8 p.m. and they're going to charge a whopping $5 for a booth. That's going to help for cleanup and organization and all that sort of thing. And they are hoping to have some music to entertain folks as well, to make it a fun, festive day. Our community member there, Bonnie Meter, is leading the charge. And if you're interested, give her a call at 753-0610, or you can email her. This is a fun email address, bonbonmeter@gmail.com. I told her it sounds like a professional wrestler. Bonbonmeter. BONBONMEEDER, bonbonmeter@gmail. Okay, so that's all I have for today. If you have events or comments, you can send them to us anytime. And remember, you can always call us here at the station while I'm on the air at 753-5225. You can Twitter us, you can email us, you can go to Facebook, you can go wherever you want. You can come into the station like my buddy Mike Felsman that just did a little bit ago and hand us a brochure announcement. We're happy to do it. All right, I'm going to take a break. This is a public service announcement, and we'll be right back with my guest. Stay tuned.
So, I just moved in with this family, and it's embarrassing. The little one, he likes to go outside and crawl around in the giant litter box. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I was born and I knew how to use a litter box. Look at that! That's disgusting! Oh, poop already! You're making me nervous. Oh, okay, I can't look at this anymore. I really hope he grows out of this, for his sake.
That's the first time I've seen that one. My dog probably wonders what I do a lot of the times too. All right, no further ado. My guest is in from the green room. You look marvelous. I want to welcome to the show for the very first time in his new role as county executive, Mr. George Borrello. Good morning, George.
Good morning, Doc. How are you?
I'm great. As you can tell, I'm flying here. That's not every day I do 2 shows right in a row. So anyways, the machine is all well oiled and primed here. Last time you and I were in this studio, you were candidate Borrello.
Yes, sir.
And a lot has changed since then. And when I was working in my schedule this year, I remember reading that you were going to do 100 businesses in 100 days. So I got my calendar out and I tried to find which show was going to be closest to the 100th day. So are we there yet?
Oh, yeah, we just passed it, so good timing on your part.
Good timing. So you've got 100 days under your belt, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But George, I don't know if everybody knows that much about you, and you can tell us what you want. I'm not the FBI here, but could you give us, the elevator talk? Who are you, and where are you from, and a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, I grew up in Silver Creek and Fredonia. And my family, families on both sides. So I really consider them both my hometowns. But my school, from kindergarten through 12th grade graduation was Fredonia. Graduated in 1985, and still have a lot of friends and classmates here in the area, which is great. After that, I went to Purdue University, graduated there in 1989, started my own company in my early 20s. We focused
Which
on...
was like just a couple years ago, right?
Yes, yeah, I wish. I can barely remember. It was a company focused on selling products and services to the hospitality industry. It was called Top Shelf Marketing, and then grew that company into a nationally recognized supplier to the hospitality industry, and merged my company with another company out of Connecticut called Progressive Specialty Glass Company. Continued on and grew our company together. We dealt with some of the biggest names in the hospitality industry, the Hard Rock Cafe, Hard Rock International, Landry's Restaurants out of Houston, which owns everything from the Bubba Gump Shrimp Company to Morton Steakhouse.
So far, I've been to both places. Actually, I think it was down in Texas where we went to a Landry. There was all that seafood, and they do the crawdads and all that stuff.
Yeah. In fact, they're based in Houston, Texas, and the owner of the company, Tillman Fertitta, he's a billionaire, and he was my customer for a long time. In fact, he has his own show on CNBC called The $1 Billion Buyer, and the people that are on that show that work for him were people that I dealt with on an almost daily basis as my biggest customer.
And here we do the $10. We're the $10 buyers. The $1 billion buyer as well.
Yeah. It's a great show if you haven't seen it, but that not without going into too much on that. But had luckily a successful career in the private sector, and my wife and I are also the proud owners of the hospitality operations in Sunset Bay on Lake Erie. My wife's obviously the operating partner, and as I've told people, since we are married, I am truly the silent partner. So, she's been operating the business there for a very long time. And
so this is I don't understand what that means, hospitality.
Well, it's Cabana Sam's, which is a beach bar and grill, and waterfront dining. There is about 5 acres of beach, private room, private but public access groomed.
Easy to say.
Yeah, I know.
People laugh at me all the time. I go, "This is not easy to do Saturday mornings."
I've only had 1 cup of coffee, which just kicked in. So, the Sunset Bay Beach Club, and there's also a deli there, and it's a little resort community on Lake Erie.
There used to be a restaurant there, wasn't
it? It is still
that the same one.
Yeah, Cabana Sam's. Prior to that, it was called Surfers. Prior to that, it was called Calico Jack's.
Yes.
Yeah, and
it's been a long time since I've been there. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, please do. It's a great community. We have great people there. And
all right, so you just did a free ad for your wife.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. But we talk about everything here. Yeah. That's okay.
And but really, about a little over 8 years ago, I became a county legislator representing the town of Hanover, and that was really an incredibly fulfilling part of my life, to be able to serve the people of our county and the people of the town of Hanover in particular.
Did I ever tell you I ran for county legislator, but Jim Kaflish wouldn't let me in? I had him on my show not too long ago. We didn't talk about that, but
So much else to talk about.
so many other things. But yeah, county legislator is a really important role in this county. So yeah.
Yeah, and it was, in that time, I was chairman of the Planning and Economic Development Committee. I started with other people, we started the Lake Erie Management Commission for the first time, having one organization countywide representing the Lake Erie watershed, and chairman of the Regional Solutions Commission. So in my time as a legislator, I really got very much involved in making Chautauqua County a better place, and that's why, when the opportunity came along to run for county executive, I decided I wanted to dedicate myself now full-time to serving the people of Chautauqua County.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a really delicate question, and it's not embarrassing. Okay, because people ask me this often. You're a successful business person and all this. Why get into government? Back to the legislative role.
Sure.
Days. Why do that?
I think there comes a point in your life where if either you're part of the problem or you're part of the solution.
Mm-hmm.
There's really kind of no in between, in my opinion. So I chose that I wanted to be part of the solution, and that's really kind of a simple way of saying. But when you can get into government and help affect change, when you can bring the voice of people, the people in business, the people in your community to government, I think that's a powerful opportunity to affect change. You get to the point in your life, and I turned 50 recently, and you say to yourself, well, what is my impact going to be? What does the rest of my life look like, and what am I going to leave behind, most importantly? And this is an opportunity, I hope, to really truly move the needle here in Chautauqua County and leave behind a better place than I found.
Again, people say, well, why do I do a TV show? Why do I do this? Why do that? Do you feel this way at all? Life's been good.
Yes.
We got skills. We've been trained. In my case, because I was an educator, taxpayers paid for my work and a lot of my education and I have this sense that it's time to give back. I'm retired. Life's been good, and now I'm trying to do something, like you say, to make a difference and lasting difference.
Exactly.
You feel that way?
And I agree with you 100%, and I feel the same way. It's an opportunity to give back, and call it what you want, luck or hard work or whatever, but we've been afforded the opportunity to be put in the position to serve, hopefully in a humble way, serve the people and make things better.
When I last saw you, as I mentioned, you were candidate Borrello, and you were on the campaign trail, and I had Mike Ferguson on the show for a different purpose. We were talking about senior living and so forth. But I did take a moment to say, Mike, what did you learn on the campaign trail? And so it's very unusual for me to have had both guys on the show. So I'm going to ask you the same question. What did you learn on the campaign trail? I mean, you guys, it's not an easy thing to do.
No, running a countywide campaign is very challenging. I'd say the first thing that I found is that I really like Mike Ferguson as a person. He and I have got along very well. I think most people would admit that we ran a very good, some referred to as a gentlemanly campaign. Certainly in any political campaign you're going to have a certain amount of disagreement but what I learned is that negative advertising, negative campaigning, mudslinging is not necessarily how you need to operate to win an election. I truly believe that if you compared our race to many others out there, even at the local level, but certainly once you start climbing into state and federal elections, if you get your message out and tell people what you'd like to do, that you can win that way.
Good for you.
And to me, this is not about. I wanted people to vote for me, not against my opponent, and I wanted people to understand who I was and what I brought to the table. I believe I've kept my message consistent and carried that through now the first 100 days of office.
So while you were campaigning, you're talking to people, you're visiting folks and so on. Did you pick up anything? What were you hearing about the county?
I was asked by one of the newspapers what I felt was the biggest challenge facing Chautauqua County. And what I learned from talking to people is that the biggest challenge we face, in my opinion, is that we lack self-confidence. And when you go around and speak to people in the community, whether it's at events or going door to door or whatever it might be, you start to hear people's impressions of the place that they live. And while I think the vast majority of people love it here and want to continue to stay here, there's still this, well, I like it, but maybe it's not right for my kids, or we're telling our children to move away.
Yes.
We're telling, I traveled, as part of my career, I traveled for 27 years. Traveled all over the country, logged millions of miles, literally. And I can tell you that I met a lot of people from Western New York, and there wasn't one of them that wouldn't love to move back. So I can tell you that even though you hear the people saying, I'm packing up and I'm moving to Florida or whatever, the reality is most of the people that have done that would love to come back if they could, particularly those who left younger in life and would not look now to return.
I can echo that. I'm a natural interviewer. I don't know. I guess I got it from my dad. He could talk to anybody immediately. And what I often do is I ask people different things, and the lack of self-confidence, you nailed it. I don't know how many times, and I don't care what community it is, whether it's a struggling community or an affluent community, someone along the way will say, well, I went to so-and-so school, what do you expect? Or, our community is such and such, and nothing ever changes, what do you expect? This is, a dead-end street, or our county, whatever. And yet, I'll run into other people that are the people you met on the road who did come back. Yeah. And I'll say, what brought you back? They say, oh, you got to be kidding me. They didn't realize how good they had it when they were here.
Agreed.
I love Chautauqua County. I wasn't born here. I was born in Buffalo. And Buffalo is tremendous, but I never felt like I fit quite right there. I'm more of a country rural guy, and I just love being here. And when I talk to other people about coming back, they'll say, oh, it's cleaner, it's quieter, less this and that. And when we have, like a little boo-boo, we think it's this huge problem. What our problems aren't even a speck on the radar in cities. So I guess people kind of beat themselves up a lot of the time.
Yeah, they absolutely do. And like you, I have a somewhat similar experience. My wife and I lived in Amherst and Williamsville for a while.
Okay.
And I can tell you that as much as there are conveniences up there that very, very close, it's also very closed quarters and very densely populated. And we didn't have a whole lot of friends out there. We have a lot of friends out here. But I can tell you this, this is a very affordable place to live, especially if you want to live on or near a body of water. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you that, in our house in Williamsville, I opened the drapes in the morning and I looked across the street at my neighbor's house, and I opened the drapes in the morning here and I look at Lake Erie. I'd much rather look at Lake Erie.
Right.
So,
well, I don't know exactly where you live. Are you on the lower?
In Sunset Bay.
So you're down on the lake?
Yes. Yeah.
I live on the escarpment in Ripley, and every morning I look at the ocean. That's what it looks like.
Beautiful.
It's so big. It's incredible. It's inspiring.
It is. And and I think when you sit down and analyze it, you realize the great things that we do have here. Mm-hmm. We just have to do a better job of having self-confidence so we can share that confidence with others.
That's great.
And really, I've traveled a lot, like I mentioned. You can go out in the middle of Iowa and be 4 hours from the closest city and still be in Iowa. Mm-hmm. But we live in a good region. We are in close proximity, whether it's Buffalo or Toronto or Pittsburgh or
we're
Cleveland.
Perfectly placed.
Yes. And that's not only good from a quality of life standpoint, but it's also good from a business standpoint. Strategically, people who are conducting business, transportation is a huge part of that cost of doing business and the cost of goods. And we are in a good strategic place to locate your business because we are close. We are within a day's drive of approximately 25% of the population of the United States. So these are the kind of things that we have to talk about. When you look at companies, site selection companies, mm-hmm. There are a lot of criteria, but every year there's a company called, I believe it's called Site Selection Magazine, and it's a trade magazine for that industry. And consistently, the top two things, they do a survey every year of CEOs. What are you looking for in a new site? And consistently, the top two things are closeness to a highway and a qualified workforce. And that's really what we struggle with here. And that's what I'm hearing from the businesses that I visited, is that we lack a skilled workforce. So if we really want to move the needle here, we have to focus and concentrate our efforts and our resources on developing a more skilled workforce here.
When you say skilled workforce, let's go down that road a little
Sure.
bit. So what are we lacking?
Well, unfortunately, at least since I've been in high school over 30 years ago, we've been telling kids that if you don't go to a four-year college, that you're not achieving your full potential in life, and that's just wrong. You know, I come from a working-class background. My father was a plumber, my mother was a hairdresser, and you know, we need more people with the skilled trades. And the skilled trades today are not the same as they were. You know, go right down the street here to Chautauqua Lake High School and go look at their new technology program with these CNC machines that are you know, operated by computer. These kids have to know about math, about programming, about using CAD software. You know, they have I'd say roughly 20 computer terminals there where these kids go from design and concept to reality in the next room by putting what they've designed into a machine. And you know, it's incredibly important for us to understand that not only do we need kids who can operate, who can go into those skilled trades, engineers, CNC operators, electricians, plumbers, mechanics, that this not only is this a great and noble career, but it's a good paying job as well. And quite frankly, the jobs that are out there right now, which we have a lot of, open in Chautauqua County, pay far above the average salary. They're full-time, good-paying jobs with benefits, and that's what we should aspire to achieve. Not just sending a kid to four-year college, especially because you know this is not necessarily what their aptitude is, and we're sending some of these kids into a buzzsaw instead of sending them to something that they will really you know, create not only a great quality of life for themselves, but something that we vitally need here in Chautauqua County.
You know, boy, I wish you would have come on my radio shows that we used to do at WJTN. I did 63 shows on vocational education and career technical education, and that was my message. And people always say, well, you got all those years of college and, you know, you got a PhD and all this stuff, so where are your kids, you know, what college are your kids going to go to? And I'll tell you this, I have 4 kids. My oldest is in the service, and he has his master's degree in criminal justice. My next son is a master carpenter. My next child, his daughter, owns Bella Salon that you see in the beginning and employs 25 employees. My youngest is a heavy equipment operator.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yes.
They got it early,
Yeah.
and it wasn't because I told them to go on to college. I think there's room for people to go to college. We need people to go to college. But they all pursued their passion and got the credentialing, or they went to a 2-year school or whatever it was, or got certificate programs to, you know, in their areas, and they're successful.
Yes.
We need them.
Well, you know, and the reality is that there are a lot of you know, younger people out there that have pursued a 4-year degree, and now they have trouble finding work.
Yeah.
You know, so again, this is about finding what's right, because it's not one size fits all.
Right.
We need people from, you know, from all walks of life to pursue all sorts of careers and vocations. But what we've done is we've really gotten away from the trades, and you know, traveling in and out of the businesses here in Chautauqua County, I can tell you that there's a lot of gray hair in those places. A lot of people that are retiring and close to retirement. And as much as we have an issue now, another 5 to 10 years, it's going to be almost at a crisis because we have so many folks that are going to be retiring, and we have nobody to backfill them at this point. So we really need to change our focus and also re-educate our displaced adults. You know, we wring our hands when we hear that Sam's Club is closing, okay? And yet, and there was 100 jobs there, but most of those jobs were not skilled labor, a few management jobs. Most of those people were, you know, stocking
Clerks.
shelves and
Yeah.
clerks, and, you know, there's opportunities to take those folks and put them into training programs, WCA Hospital, UPMC, WCA Chautauqua, to be quite exact. You know, the day that they announced the Sam's Club was closing, I was touring that hospital, and Betsy Wright, the president, said we have 45 open positions here right now. Most of them are entry level, and we will train you Yeah, and get you to the point where you could be an LPN, or or even move on into a higher degree.
Right.
So we need to move folks out of those jobs into something where.
And that's just one example.
Yes, that's one example.
Right. Yeah. And you've got the Workforce Investment Board, you've
Yes.
got COI, you've got all kinds of programs out there that are there to help. You got internships, apprenticeships, just goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
But we got to make those connections, right?
Yeah, and to me, I think the best thing that I can do as county executive is to shine light on that, and to make sure that people are doing a better job of collaborating and cooperating and networking. The reality is that there are a lot of people working on it, but there's a lot of silos, as people like to say. People are not working together.
Right.
So we need to use our resources, because resources are limited. We need to use them as efficiently as possible. And in all areas, we have to do a better job of networking and certainly collaborating. And that's what I feel my number one job will be, to facilitate conversations and make sure that people are communicating and we're using our resources as efficiently as possible.
Okay, I'm going to do pushback now. Ready?
Okay, sure.
Okay. I've interviewed other people in government at the county level, and I've heard very similar things. Not that they disagree with you, but why aren't we there yet? What's holding up?
That's a good question. I think that the part of the reason that we aren't there yet is because everybody's so very focused on, what's in their little box. And
my little piece of cheese,
exactly.
my little turf. Yeah.
Yes, sometimes it takes you have to hit the pause button. One of the initiatives that I started is the Countywide Alliance for Enforcement and Rehabilitation, CARE, the CARE organization, and where we're bringing all different stakeholders together to try and address the opioid problem here in Chautauqua County. And the CARE group is basically bringing all the folks that are working on education and prevention into one group. Those that are working on treatment and in the healthcare end of that problem, and then law enforcement. And we've had our first meetings, initial meetings, and in each one of those 3 meetings, because we separated them into 3 groups, we immediately identified areas where people are not communicating well, where there is opportunity for better collaboration, where people that you would think are already at least working on the same issue would be working on together, are not. And not to say that there aren't people working. There are people working very hard, and not that they don't have the right intentions, but they truly just haven't had enough time to communicate. So it was
They're too busy doing.
Exactly. So hit the pause button for a moment, get everybody together at the table, and let's readdress it.
Okay. And my experience has been very often is people have data, they have information, and they can't share it with you because your boss doesn't have an agreement to share from my boss, and all it is a matter of a piece of paper, a memorandum of agreement or whatever, and those are the discussions that need to be taken place and things like that.
And we're going to push all that stuff aside as quickly as possible.
Good.
The reality, if there's one thing I can bring from business, is that we just have to get things done. A lot of what, even as in my first 100 and something days now that I've been in office, I've seen a lot of situations like that where we're just bogged down in paperwork and red tape, and I want to get the job done. As I've said to my staff and to the others around me in the office building, I've said, look, I don't think anybody voted for me because they thought that I was good at signing my name. For me to sit in the office and just sign paperwork is not the reason that people elected me as county executive. So I'm going to do what I have to, of course, to keep things moving, but that is not my role. My role is to get out there and get things done as quickly, as efficiently as possible. So we're going to find better, more efficient ways to get through that red tape, but ultimately, if we let ourselves be bogged down by it, we're never going to move forward.
100 days plus under your belt now, so what surprised you about the job, the position? I won't call it a job, the position.
What surprised me? There's I guess the biggest surprise is that we visited 100 businesses in 100 days.
Yeah.
Actually,
Wow.
107 that we got to in the first.
Just for the record.
Exactly, exactly. And I went in there expecting people to complain about taxes or to say business is bad. All that rhetoric you hear in a campaign. We don't have jobs. We don't have the and the reality is that the number one thing that everyone brought up is I have business. I could do more business if I only had more better qualified people, people that can pass a drug test and show up to work
Yeah,
every
I've heard
day.
that right along, yeah.
And again, the skilled trades that we talked about, but very little conversation about taxes or regulations. Or it was about, I need help being able to move my business forward, and how you can best help me is to help me find people to come and work in my facility.
When I was regional administrator at BOCES at the Hughes Center, one of the themes that I worked with the students there was the soft skills.
Yes.
And people thought I was a little bit loony. I would have a competition, class against class, about attendance. And I got some pushback from some of the staff as well. The kid's got 85% attendance. I think that's pretty good. I said, okay, hey, ready now? Do you want a kid to show up at your business 85% of the time? That means out of 100 days, they're missing 15 days of production. And they kind of look at me, okay, I got the message, and we never talked about that again. And I started explaining to the kids, the students, I said, if you're there 99% of the time, good for you, but you're still 1% less production.
Yes.
And accountability and efficiency. You should be striking for 100%.
Yeah.
People expect that of you, and so we were working on that, and I think they finally got it and they stepped up to it. But those are the things that we don't focus on sometimes in schools.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I've heard that time after time again. I've already had a few meetings with JCC in Fredonia, with BOCES and the P-TECH program, and one of the things that I think that will help is we've talked with JCC about potentially developing a soft skills certification. A short-term.
Yes, I've talked with Kurt Young about
yes,
that.
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think this is something we've had a couple meetings on. I think it's a great idea, and what it is it's talking about everything from showing up on time to how to interact with your employees, personal hygiene, basic math skills. And are these things that should be taught in life? Yes, they are. But sometimes we need to let people know that to be successful in business, be successful in a career, these are the basics that you need. And what I feel would be great about this is if you get that soft skills certification, which again, low or no cost and a very short-term thing, put that on your resume. This is now an identification to the business owners that, hey, you know what? If someone went through this process, I'm likely going to have success with them because they went through the trouble to do this. They must be serious about wanting to have a job and do a good job. Almost all of the major employers that we have here, in fact, even a lot of the small businesses here, are using employment agencies, temporary agencies, not because they wanted to save money or to, it's because that's the only way they can even get to a 50-50 success rate with employees. When they do it themselves, they're lucky to get to 10 or 20%. Yeah. So the soft skills certification program, I think, is one step forward in helping eliminate that extra step for businesses. So, I want to focus on things like that and refocusing our resources on that. There's this campaign rhetoric that there's no jobs here. And we have to, my job as county executive is to go to, Italy or California or Florida and find a company and bring them back here to Chautauqua County and they have to have 500 good paying jobs. No. The reality is that, I've visited 107 businesses and there are over 500 full-time year-round jobs available just at those businesses. Wow. So our resources need to be refocused on helping those folks fill those positions, because if they can't be successful, if they can't have a qualified workforce to move their company forward, how do we expect new companies to come in and be able to fill their workforce needs? So we have to focus first on that, and if we can make those companies successful first, the others will follow.
Okay. While you were talking, I was thinking a thought, and then a voice appeared or showed up in my ear because I have an earpiece here, and the voice in my head and the person on the other end were saying the same thing. Number one, how can we help here at Access 5 to get the word out on these jobs?
Great.
And is there a list?
Yeah, well, and we're going to work on compiling that. I will tell you to stay tuned for my State of the County address. That'll be April 25th, Wednesday night at 6:30. We've actually moved the whole legislature meeting to the Chautauqua Lake High School, to their auditorium,
that's beautiful.
to allow more people to come. And we're, in the meantime, compiling the data, and we're going to do our best to share that with everybody. And then we will put together a list of folks that do have jobs and where you can go, what kind of skills.
Okay, so here I'm making a promise to you. If you send me the website or a poster, I will put it on my show regularly.
Thank you.
And we will put it on the community calendar,
Thank
okay? So people can, because the voice in my head, not mine, but the other voice said, where's the list?
Yeah.
How do I find out?
Yeah.
And there's 500 jobs. People want to know.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how to get it.
Yeah, and we'll do that. Also, one of the other initiatives is we're going to create a static location, and we're still working on the mechanics of this. But a website we have temporarily I have ChautauquaJobs.org reserved, and we want to create a static location for people that have jobs in Chautauqua County to match those up with people that are seeking jobs in Chautauqua County, whether you're local or out of town or whatever. So we're going to do our best to pick the low-hanging fruit first, which is to match the people that have those skills already with the folks that have jobs. In fact, as I talked about this in one of my other meetings, somebody did reach out to me and said, hey, I'm a CNC operator, which is an incredibly sought-after position right now. Give me some names of some businesses, and we emailed them a list of places that are looking for CNC operators. So we want to try and help do that.
Matchmaking.
Yes, and so the low-hanging fruit is to ensure that we're networking people together and trying to fill as many of those positions as quickly as possible.
And we'll help.
Thank you, and I
You
appreciate
bet.
that.
I will be happy to do that. All right, let's switch up a few things. You and I were at an event the other day at the Westfield Memorial Hospital. What'd you think? The new emergency room. What'd you think of that?
It's great. I hope I never have to be there for the right reason or the wrong reason, whatever you want to call it, but I thought it was fantastic. A state-of-the-art facility, and such an incredibly important part of any community is to have good access to health care. I know that particular hospital services a lot of the folks in the Amish community.
Right.
But people have to understand that there are a lot of cornerstones to economic development that don't have anything to do with businesses or bringing businesses, or it has to do with the quality of life.
Right.
And having a good state-of-the-art hospital, particularly an emergency room, in your community is something that people look for when they're deciding whether they're going to, locate
Hospitals and schools.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm so glad to see that. I thought it was a great effort on the part of the community. I know that you're a part of that board, along with Helen Barron and many others. So
A force to be reckoned with. Yes.
absolutely,
She's so passionate.
she is, and congratulations to all of you. Fantastic job there.
It was the foundation just stepped right up, raised over $650,000, and like you say, hopefully you don't need it, but if you ever have an opportunity to tour it, it's beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Pete Pascal did a great job with his leadership as the administrator there and so on.
yeah.
So, okay. Moving right along, when you and I did our interview, and I told you I was going to talk about this, you said that you had a dream, a vision, whatever, for when you first come into New York State, and it would be right in my hometown of Ripley. And we talked about the Tamarack concept. And I've been talking about this where everybody will listen. I just think it's such a great idea. And for those of you that don't know what a Tamarack is, it's in West Virginia?
Yes, West Virginia.
It's a great big, humongously cool site, building, that has all the artisans and local vendors, I guess, products that are made locally, right?
Yeah, it's really a great cross section. It's called Tamarack, the Best of West Virginia. If you want to Google that and check it out, it is essentially a welcome center for the state of West Virginia, and inside of it is not only local artisans, but also major companies. For example, people may have heard of Fiesta Ware.
Sure.
Fiesta Ware has a big setup there where you can buy Fiesta Ware there.
Furniture, lamps,
Yes.
Rugs. I've been there. And
yeah, it's amazing.
It's one of those where the vehicle starts to pull over because my wife is programmed in the GPS that turns on the Tamarack when we're on the road. But it's gorgeous there.
Well, and the difference between that and a traditional welcome center is,
Coffee, some orange juice.
Yeah, exactly. As I've said to people, I don't want a place that's stop and pee and get a map. That's not the purpose.
Pee and go,
we want to create something that is in itself a destination, a tourist destination that highlights the best of Chautauqua County and the best of Western New York and the Southern Tier. So what I envision at Ripley, right there at the Shortman Road exit,
You heard it first here. Chautauqua Sunrise.
is to create that type of a destination, and that will essentially whet people's appetite to continue on, whether it's to our wine trail or to check out all the fabulous places.
Absolutely.
Lake Erie, Chautauqua Lake, the 5 lakes that we have here in our county. But also, there's other great things in Western New York. This it's really sad what you see at the entrance of our state. The Empire State is there, and here you are with this kind of barren area that's a shadow of what it once was. And I feel bad for the folks in Ripley because I know Ripley is a wonderful community. I spent quite a bit of time there recently, and we need to bring that back and make that a true gateway to New York State. And right now it's not, and it's my hope that with enough attention, and I will tell you that I can't talk publicly about what we're doing, but
all right, let me just take out the microphone.
but we are actively working on that.
Good.
And hopefully we'll sometime in the near future we'll be announcing our next steps.
Excellent. Okay. I have an earpiece, as you can see, and people think I'm hearing voices, and I am, but they're real voices. The voice was asking, because I get questions, sometimes people call in or whatever. What about the condition of the roads and bridges infrastructure in the county? I mean, they're kind of shaky right now in some places.
Yeah. Well,
then that's going to be all part of how we bring people into the county, right?
Yeah, I agree. And I think whether it's the federal government or the state government, both are talking about improving our infrastructure. We are working on roads and bridges constantly. CHIPS funding was increased in the state budget, which is good to hear.
Tell folks what CHIPS is. I know what it is.
Yeah, it's the highway. I don't remember the exact words, but it's basically the highway funding that comes through the state government that helps us maintain our roads.
Right, it's a fund of money that everybody
exactly
gets.
Yes, and I know. Unfortunately, elected officials like to talk in acronyms all the time.
Well, that's
so
my job is to ask,
yeah,
what does that mean again?
Yes, it's the,
Okay.
yeah, and so. Infrastructure is a critical part of any community. Again, people judge you basically on, as much as you can have all kinds of wonderful things. If the road to get there is full of potholes,
right,
that sets a bad tone for people.
The great bumper sticker I saw recently says, "I'm not drunk, I'm driving around the potholes." And I know it's seasonal, and I'm not picking on the highway folks, because I know a lot of them that are hard workers and they're doing the best they can, and they got to wait till the weather cooperates.
Yeah.
But it seemed to be kind of rough this year again.
Well, this was a very challenging winter, because not only was it a long, cold winter, we did have our fair amount of freeze and thaw cycles, and that and right now is the worst. Is the worst time, because the damage to the roads is obviously most evident now that we've had this thaw, and we don't have we don't have the things that we need necessary to start permanently repairing the roads. You can put down cold patch, as they call it, but that pops out of the holes right away. The roads will be worked on, but the bigger picture is improving our infrastructure as a whole. And I'm glad to hear the governor and the president both talk about that, because again, it's critical.
We have time probably for one more hot topic. To me, it's a hot topic because I've watched other county executives kind of grapple with this. It's not a hard question. I was on the county planning board for about a bunch of years, and this was one that we've struggled with: is the airport. Where are we at with that? And we've only got a couple of minutes left, so I don't want to take up all.
We could do a whole show on that, but let me say this: that I am actively pursuing a new airline in Jamestown.
Yeah, I saw that in the paper. That's why I asked.
And I'll tell you what I think is most important. My background is in business and marketing in particular. We have to stop looking at our airports as a reluctant obligation, and we have to start looking at them as
opportunity.
Yes, and a great opportunity. Again, because I've traveled, I've seen small airports that have prospered. I just recently went up to Messina, New York, north of the Adirondack Mountains. Much more remote area, much smaller airport than. My God, it makes Jamestown look like JFK. And yet. And they have a very successful model up there, and that has been a part of what I've been doing, is to seek out other places that are having success that have similar demographics and attributes. So I'm confident that we will bring a new airline into Jamestown. They're doing extremely well up there with an airline called Boutique Air, and they have great airplanes. In fact, there was a picture of me recently in the Post-Journal coming out of one of their airplanes up in Messina, New York. And I will tell you that we have to look at this like other people. We want other people to look at it, and that's come to Jamestown, park 10 yards from the door, walk in, stand in line with a half a dozen to 10 other people.
Gosh.
Yeah, exactly. Going through security. Show up a half an hour before your flight instead of 2.5 hours before your flight. Hop on an airplane and go to destinations all over. And with the right airline, that has the right interconnect agreements and code share agreements with other airlines, flying to the right destinations, we can have that and make this a reason for you to come and want to fly out of Jamestown.
George, we're just about out of time. I want to thank you for being my guest today. You got like 20 seconds. What would you like to tell folks? You can look right at the camera, whatever you want to do.
You know, I would just say that, folks, people aren't going to believe in us if we don't believe in ourselves. So have that self-confidence. Remember why it is that you love living here and raising your family here, and share that experience with others. If we have confidence in ourselves, other people will have confidence in us, and that's going to be really the key to elevating our county to the next level.
George, thanks for joining me today. I hope you'll come back again and again and again. Sure. Folks, it's a wrap for us here at Chautauqua Sunrise. Have a great weekend, and next week you've got a surprise host, and then after that we're going to have our 200th show with my special guest, so stay tuned. Please come back again and again and again, and we'll see you all next time. I'm Doc Hamels. Have a good weekend. Bye now. Thank you, sir.